What's up, world? Hello, hello. It's so good to be joining you live from Scottsdale, Arizona. The weather is so perfect here, so I decided let's go live outside in that lighting, and hopefully the internet's okay out here. So guess what? Emerald Robinson and Newsmax are over. It has ended between them, and she sat down with me today to discuss why that was. You all may remember it went down between her and Newsmax and Twitter in regards to the ingredients in the needle. And so today we're going to talk a lot about the corporate news and the death of curiosity. This reporter was curious about the ingredients in the needle. We're going to talk all about that. I'm going to play some sound bites from Emerald now. She and I dove deep on my website. So link in description for my website, the full uncensored interview with her. I knew this wasn't an interview that I could do live on YouTube because there were far too many words that YouTube's bots like to nip in the bud, delete the video. So that is on my uncensored website. You're going to really enjoy the interview between me and Emerald Robinson. She talks about what she's doing now and about the problems across the corporate news. People thought maybe Newsmax is the counter to the censored press, but no, turns out it isn't. So we're going to discuss that. I'm going to play some clips from her. I'm also going to shout out a CBS San Diego reporter who also just broke away as well. And I love that, we see corporate news people break away and just real low key say, oh, I'm spending more time with my family. And it's like, are you really? Is that really why you ditched this whole job that you worked so hard for? No, it's not. There's other reasons. And so I really like that more and more corporate news people are actually keeping it real and coming to their viewers and say, you know what? I'm going to tell you the truth about why I left because it involves you. And so Allison Royal from CBS San Diego, she had experiences similar to mine, honestly, in regards to the crafting of the narrative as being more important to her bosses than the facts on the ground. And some of the things they were telling her to do are pretty crazy. I think I'm going to play some clips. She actually interviewed me. She interviewed me on her new Rumble, link in description. I freaking loved interviewing with her. One of my favorite interviews. There's just something about interviewing with someone who's been through similar stuff. It's a great interview. Anyway, I'm going to play some clips from that, but I think she's going to join me live later too. If her schedule works out, she's going to pop on here live as well. So before I get started jumping right into Emerald's story, I got to shout out the sponsor of my coverage today, which is My Patriot Supply. Now, My Patriot Supply was my first advertiser. They're ride or die for my independent journalism. I love them. I love being sponsored by people like this instead of big pharma. We have My Patriot Supply, the number one emergency food preparedness company in America with millions of happy, well-prepared customers. When you need it, it will be there. And right now, you can save $50 on a 4-week emergency food kit. This kit provides breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, and snacks totaling over 2,000 calories a day. Every family in America should have one of these. Go to preparewithivory.com and save $50 on your 4-week food kit. That's preparewithivory.com. Do it before the peanut butter hits the fan. Go to preparewithivory.com. Link in description. My Patriot Supply. Love those guys. All right, so Emerald Robinson, I really enjoyed sitting down with her today for an awesome Zoom interview, diving deep into the topics that the corporate news, hates and shuns. And it's really interesting. She had mentioned she was basically getting in trouble with Newsmax every day. It was like always something, they wanted to somehow keep her in line with the lockstep corporate narrative. And it's like, really, guys? Because the whole reason you got viewers in the first place, Newsmax is a pretty new outlet, but they really jumped onto the scene like December of 2020, November of 2020, the whole winter of 2020 into 2021, everyone flocked over to them because people were finally catching on that Fox was controlled opposition. So people said maybe Newsmax is the answer. So Newsmax literally gets followers. They get viewers because people are looking for an alternative. And here they are just trying to conform to this narrative as well. So I want to play you a clip from my interview with Emerald Robinson today. You wouldn't believe, she was the White House correspondent. It's really important that we have a diversity of reporters in the White House press corps to ask Jen Psaki or Joe Biden the hard questions, not just the little soft questions. And Emerald was one of the few people who would do that. But get this, get what she told me Newsmax was telling her to do in regards to Jen Psaki, press secretary. Take a listen.
So Newsmax asked you multiple times to go easy on Jen Psaki?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They asked me not to, and just to not be as hard, because as you know, she and I had several exchanges, and honestly, I didn't feel like mostly I was being hard on her. I was just asking the questions that a lot of people, a lot of people in America wanted to be asked that is not getting asked by the corporate media.
So Newsmax was trying to regulate what she was asking when she was, I guess, asking the questions a lot of the public had. That's kind of what you're supposed to do as a reporter. Your first loyalty is to the viewers. So that was pretty stunning to me. I guess this was covered by one of the media outlets already. That's why she's talking about it. There's something that was in her contract. She can't talk about everything with Newsmax right now, but that was something that was already out. So she was able to talk about how Newsmax was getting her to, trying to get her just be more like ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. Now, Fox does have Peter Ducey in there, and he's been killing it, asking some of the questions the rest of the media doesn't, and Joe Biden hates him for it, and Psaki hates him for it, but at least Peter's in there. So Emerald and I talked about what went down early last November is when it really fell apart with Newsmax, and she was abruptly taken off the air. She told me her contract with Newsmax ended this month, but she basically Newsmax paid her to not work November through January. That's how badly they wanted to, I guess, comply with some narrative. This is all after she sent a tweet about the ingredients in the needle. So she and I were talking about how Twitter came after her and Newsmax came after her at the exact same time. The same time that Twitter suspended her, Newsmax stripped her right off the air altogether. So that's what we're talking about in this next clip. Take a listen. And again, this is all on my uncensored website. Full interview on my uncensored website, ivoryhecker.com, link in description. But here's this clip.
We know that these media entities contact Twitter, or they contact these corporate media networks in an effort to push for them to cancel people. They ask, "Oh, how are you responding to this? Oh, this is so bad," and then they'll write these stories.
Are you disciplining Emerald?
Yeah, is there going to be any kind of repercussions for this? And conservative media and conservative politicians, for as much as they love to talk about cancel culture and go out there and fundraise on it and get on TV and give very good sound bites about cancel culture, they are the ones who are allowing it to happen, because
they're participating in it.
They're participating in it. They go right along with what the left-leaning media and the corporate establishment and corporate interests say is okay. So the moment a person is canceled, so many, and I won't say everybody, but so many that get on TV and talk about it, they run as far as they can in the other direction, because they don't want, to possibly it to affect them in any way. And so that's why it's allowed to continue to happen. And it'll only get worse, Ivory, before the 2022 midterms, because as this narrative on the vaccines falls apart, with especially with this Omicron variant, and people who have been thrice vaccinated getting it in droves, there's a real struggle for the establishment, the media, the corporate interest to keep this narrative together. And you're going to see bigger and bigger people deplatform, because this is a major issue headed into 2022. And given that Democrats want to push for mail-in ballots, they have to have the coronavirus. So we're going to see more and more cancellations.
Yeah, I call this the crisis of timid journalism is what the result is. Because what happens is every journalist becomes more and more timid because they see, what happened to you, and they're like, oh gosh, I don't want to be the next one. And I never know what I say might send an onslaught of attacks after me and get me fired.
And they will.
And they will. So we shall see who's next on the chopping block when it comes to getting rid of any reporter who dares to question facts outside the narrative. Any reporter who covers facts outside the narrative. Anyone who asks viewers questions outside the narrative. Anyone who uncovers some inconvenient fact or has even a differing opinion. We'll see when they get canceled next. Emerald is predicting a lot of people will be upcoming to be canceled, but others are just saying enough is enough. I'm leaving my corrupt corporation. When I left Fox so publicly because they were muzzling me, they were trying to keep me from reporting certain facts. It started with a total ban on treatments for the illness after they found that, Ivory won't just comply. She'll actually cover facts on the ground. She won't just comply with the NIH's narrative. So therefore, you're banned, Ivory, heretofore from covering the illness treatments. But then they assigned me to election, and there were election anomalies that they banned me from covering. Then issues with the needle. They said, Ivory, you're assigned to cover 2 blood clots. There's been 2 blood clots with Johnson & Johnson. Cover only that. And don't you dare mention the 3,000 deaths that have also happened thus far. Weird things like that. And then assigning us to, how can we, let's craft a story today. Literally, I put out these sound bites. The boss is saying, let's craft a story today of how we can, manipulate people's minds enough to make them want to get their kids to get the needle. They literally were contriving propaganda in our morning meetings. And I put these sound bites out, and all of this, there's many, many reasons, many corrupt things that happen. And, and I'm one of many. When I left, there were countless people who reached out to me and said, oh my gosh, me too. I already quietly quit, but I'm not allowed to say something because there's something in my contract or whatever that wouldn't let them come forward and be honest with the viewers about why they quit. So people say, I quit to spend more time with my family. But honestly, more and more people are they're being controlled as news people, and they're not okay with it. It's not okay with their conscience. And anyway, Allison Royal, looks like she is able to join me live. Allison Royal is one of the latest from CBS San Diego. She was making her way up in corporate news. She's younger than me, and she was like, screw it. This is I'm not going to be a part of this propaganda that's really ratcheting up in the pandemic. So let's bring Allison on live. Hey, Allison, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Just hopped on a minute ago. How are you doing, Ivory?
I'm good. Sorry, I just turned my volume up so I could hear you. I'm outside in Scottsdale, Arizona right now. It's phenomenal.
It's beautiful.
It's the great thing about going independent, you can just podcast from anywhere.
Exactly.
So I'm excited for your future now that you ditched CBS San Diego. But one thing you texted me that I guess I didn't know the whole story on the narrative that CBS San Diego was trying to craft. in as far as, forget going out and openly seeking facts on the ground. Let's see what like the NIH or the CDC is telling us, and then like contrive a story to fit with their narrative, and one thing you just texted me right before my show today was like, oh dang, I didn't realize it was that specific stuff that was happening to you. So tell me the story of when your boss assigned me or assigned you to
Looking at
cover
young people, right?
child deaths from the illness.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so much to the story. I could go deeper and deeper, but essentially it was a punishment. I had tweeted something. I had retweeted a Fox affiliate, which was a big no. We were not supposed to do that, even though I had coworkers who did it and it was totally fine. And it was something about the border, which even though we lived in San Diego and the border's right there, we weren't supposed to talk about it. And so a manager who I previously she didn't oversee me directly or anything like that. The manager that I did work with, I had a great relationship with, as well as about 99% of the people that I worked with, I have wonderful things to say about. But the punishment for tweeting about was that, okay, you're going to get your punishment later. Basically, there's going to be some discipline. There's going to be some follow-up. And that was an assignment. I was sent a New York Times piece called Younger, Sicker, Quicker. And I was supposed to look into younger people in San Diego being affected by this illness that we talk about. So young adults, teenagers, children, see if they were in fact filling up hospitals, overwhelming the healthcare system, if they were dying more, just sick like that. Were they getting sicker faster? Were they getting more ill than they previously were? So I was like, all right, I'll look into it. No problem. I look into it. I get a ton of health data from anywhere that you could think of, right? I basically got health data from the entire San Diego County area, and I stratified it by age to see if this was happening. I haven't looked up the most recent numbers, but at the time, only one person under 18 had died in San Diego County of the illness that we talk about. And it wasn't even entirely clear if they died of that disease or with that disease. It was a 10-year-old, and unfortunately, they had a number of pre-existing conditions. Doesn't make it less sad for that kid's family. I mean, that's still devastating, but I also feel like that context is worth including. So that was the first thing. I put the story together and was constantly sent revisions, again, not by my manager, but by somebody who was kind of babysitting me and making sure that I wasn't going to say anything that they didn't like. That was the week that they didn't like me going live as much anymore because they were afraid I was going to say something live on air, but I didn't have the courage that you did. Gosh, this is like bringing back so many memories. This was over the summer. And so I kept saying look, I interviewed doctors. I reached out to the children's hospital there. It's called Rady Children's in San Diego. And I asked, hey, have you seen an influx of patients? Are they younger? Are they sicker? What's going on? And they said, we haven't seen anything in regards to that particular illness, but we are seeing an uptick in childhood diarrhea this summer. Not the cutest, but that's what I learned. And, I come back with it. I come back with scripts about it. And they constantly were pulling me off of whatever day turn I was to work on this story and really make sure that this message was brought home that, us young people are just filling up hospitals, which just in fact is not true. And eventually it got to the point where they rewrote my script for me and told me to track it on my day off, which they had never, ever bothered me on my day off before I started pushing the envelope too much. And I said, no, I won't track this with my voice. And they killed the story and we moved on. But I knew that I had to move on too. I knew that obviously every journalist has stories like this, but I think when you play along with what they want and you don't question things too much and maybe the financial motives and pharmaceutical companies and where they're coming from, your life is great in corporate news. Your life is awesome.
But if you just read that teleprompter, no edits.
Saying something that they aren't 100% on board on, your life is really hard. And you learn that the hard way. And so, months in advance that, your demise is coming and that that you can't stay here forever. They reward you in some ways to keep you quiet. And then they also, I don't even know how to explain that. They reward you, but then they also send messages your way, like the one that I received, hey, we're going to keep you on this roller coaster and keep you on your toes. And I could just go on forever. But anyway, so that was one of the stories that made me realize that corporate news and I were not a good fit anymore.
Wow. So did that script they tried to make you track? I'm sorry. Is it working? Can you hear me?
Hold on. I cannot hear you. I can unplug this mic and see if it makes a difference.
Okay, yeah, because I can hear you. Great. Can
Hmm.
the viewers hear me? Viewers, let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me now, Allison?
Oh no, I can't hear you here.
Okay, well, let's see if my audio is okay. I was gonna ask Allison when she can hear me again. What's that? Okay, so the viewers can hear me. When you can hear me again, I'm gonna ask you whether your bosses tried to make her read falsehoods in that script she refused to track. It sounds like that was the case. But before we get to that, I'm actually gonna play a clip from Allison interviewing me. Allison interviewed me just recently, as she's been gearing up to do her own independent journalism. And I really liked the interview with her because she and I both kept it so real about what's really happening with corporate news and why you're seeing this lockstep narrative. But I want to play for you kind of her sentiments here, which I think she worded really well in the interview. Here it is.
You see so many people go on and they resign on their last time that they're on air and they say, I'm going to be spending more time with my family, or I'm going into early retirement, or, I've just had a new baby. And for a fact that that's not entirely why they're doing this. That they've had experiences like you've had, like I've had, and they just can't sleep at night anymore. They feel this guilt, and they know that all of these media companies are the same. Like, I know you said you realized you were having these problems at Fox. I was having issues at my station, and I realized, gosh, okay, do I try to go to a different station? They're all the same. It's like when you go to a grocery store and there's this illusion that there are thousands of brands, but there's really only a handful of food companies and they own everything that you see in the store. Something, however, that is unique about you that I hope more people learn from is there is this dream when you're a reporter. You go to school for it and you go to these small markets and you have these big dreams and you work your way up and you finally get to where you want to be. And then you're in it for a while and you realize, oh, this is really corrupt. And you feel this sense of, oh, I can't quit because then I'm quitting on my dream. I'm quitting on what I worked hard for. If your family helped you go to college, like my family helped me with this, and you feel like you're letting people down. You feel like you're letting yourself down. I imagine people who go to medical school and get into a position like this realize, like, oh, wow, what am I doing? And you want to try to find a way to make it work, but you realize at some point, it feels like you're giving up on the dream, but maybe you just need to tailor it. Maybe you just go off on your own and do something like that. I think a lot of people in our position say, oh yeah, they either just get out, say, oh, I'm having a baby, or I need to spend more time with my family, or they just, it really does feel like selling your soul, and they just put up with it, because when you put up with this stuff, they make your life so good. And when you question things, ironically, which is what journalists are supposed to do, they make your life really, really hard. They will bother you outside of work hours. They will make you afraid. And I think you are a really good example that, I'm sure, I know you've moved all over the country and you've done this job. I mean, we worked for the same company at one point. That you don't have to completely give up on news. You can do it in your own way. So I think that is something that I think a lot of people can take from you.
Yeah. So hold on. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. So I have no idea what you said after I stopped talking. So sorry.
Oh, yeah.
But I was able to hear the clip that you just played.
Good. Sorry about that echo, guys. Working on technical difficulties here, but I was asking you, that script that you said the boss has finally basically wrote for you in regards to child deaths and hospitalizations from the illness.
Mm-hmm.
Were there falsehoods in there? Were they trying to make it seem worse than it is?
In my opinion, yes. I think maybe other people would think that they're just reworking it, or, trying to get a certain point across. And I mean, they were talking about young people in general, people in their 20s, teenagers, kids. And if the message that they wanted out there was true, you and I would both have tons of friends that are in the hospital. And I haven't had one friend go to the hospital because of this. I would say objectively that they were twisting the truth, in my opinion. But I think other people would just say that they were reworking it. They were just, taking little things in there. But before all this happened, no one ever questioned my scripts. No one. I mean, I would send a script in for a story.
they would maybe change one little word or one little grammar thing and be like, looks good, but 9 times out of 10. And also, this wasn't the boss who approved my scripts every day. This was a higher up. This was somebody who should have had no involvement. It's all a punishment. It's all, I mean, I know you've been there before too, but it's more of sending a message like, hey, like, know your place. You're lucky to be here. You're lucky to have this job. Don't ever acknowledge any kind of wrongdoing or pharmaceutical involvement in the messages that we put out about this. I'm sure you've had it. I mean, I know for a fact you've had it happen too. Every journalist has a story like this. They may not talk about it in public, but every journalist has a story like this. I have a ton of people that I've met in my career who privately text me and we talk about this stuff, and they all have stories like this, but there is a huge personal payoff for talking about it openly.
Yeah, so I'm so thrilled that you are talking about it. Sorry, some of you are saying there's an echo again. I tried muting my mic while you were talking. Let me know if the echo went away. All right, so I'm thrilled that you're actually coming out and keeping it real. And I think that when reporters ditch the corporate news more and more, as I hope they continue to do now, as the corporate news, look, the corporate news has always been somewhat compromised, but it's gotten a lot worse in the pandemic. So I hope to see a lot of corporate reporters leave and say why they left, you know, because if you're still on the inside, I think you should be doing everything to hold your boss's feet to the fire in regards to journalism. But if you do find yourself leaving, keep it real with the viewers, because the whole reason for news media is the viewers, is to inform them accurately. And if you find that you've been used as a tool of a compromised false narrative or misleading narrative, then it's only right to come forward and tell your viewers that, and not just say, sorry, I'm spending more time with family.
Yeah, having a baby. Well, maybe you are having a baby, but one thing too, you're absolutely right. And I mean, we have more power than we realize. And there is a certain level of responsibility that comes with corporate journalism. I'll give you an example. So this happened over the summer, but almost exactly a year ago, last February, I want to say, I was at a site where they, you know, do something for people, and, you know, they give people injections, and I was doing live shots there on the morning show, worked with an awesome photographer, but day was going great. But obviously I have like my own internal concerns about that stuff, but I kept it to myself. You know, everyone has their own choice. And this woman came up to me, gosh, she must've been about 60. Like, she was young, healthy, like fit mom kind of vibes. And she comes up to me and she goes, oh my gosh, like, I watch you guys all the time. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. And she goes, you know, and I listen to you guys. I haven't left the house once in a year because I listen to you guys and I want to stay safe. And I love channel da-da-da. And she walked away and I felt sick to my stomach. I'm like, this woman is completely healthy and she's afraid to walk the dog or go check her mail or see her friends or see any family. And obviously that's on her. That's her decision. And she has to own that. Like, she can't blame the news for making her make that decision. But just knowing that some people feel like that we're putting that thought in their brains, I just felt like this huge burden of responsibility that we should not be doing that. We should be telling people about things, but not telling people what to do. And I think a lot of people are good about not crossing that line, but there are times that it's crossed. I mean, I would write my anchor intros in a lot of situations, and I would say, if you choose to get an injection, and then sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they would change it to when you choose to get the injection. Like, just little words like that, they plant in people's heads, and it goes a long way. And so if I ever saw this woman again, I would give her the biggest hug if she would let me. But there is a certain sense of responsibility that we have to be cognizant of.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember before I left Fox, I was seen in a photograph without a mask, not socially distanced, and my boss got after me for that and said, Ivory, how can you be doing that when you're telling viewers on TV not to do that? And I was like, I'm not telling viewers on TV not to do that. I know you're trying to make me do that, but I haven't been complying with you telling me to be the viewer's parent and tell them what to do with their lives. So it's interesting that, yeah, our bosses all wanted us on air talent to, tell viewers what to do.
Oh yeah.
We can interview a health expert who is making recommendations. That doesn't mean it's our recommendation.
I
but
completely agree with you.
but that changed in the pandemic, where no, it was supposed to be the news outlets recommendation or order.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I loved our conversation in your interview. So you have a new Rumble now. You just went independent. I love that you're doing that too, because a lot of news people leave and they actually just ditch news altogether. A lot of them go into PR.
The PR parachute.
Right. And at this point, TV news, all corporate news is PR for the pharmaceutical companies.
Mm-hmm.
So you should be good at PR. You guys have been doing it.
And you can make way more money, and you can sleep at night a little bit better. But I don't know.
If you just come for, okay, now I'm really doing PR. Okay, you're keeping it real. You've been doing PR for
I always knew I wanted to do news, though. I knew I wanted to be a journalist. And I mean, if you were to ask my college professors, they would all say that I would probably be one of the last people they would expect to ever go into PR. And there's nothing wrong with going into PR if that's what you want to do. But no one should feel forced that, like, this is the only way I can use my skill set and not deal with the corruption that is deeply embedded in news. And it's not one person's problem. Like, it's the whole system and the way that it's set up. And I just realized that, like, that model didn't work for me in a lot of ways. And I'm not a control freak, but I like having control over my work. Unfortunately, that means learning a lot of skills that I don't have, like graphic design, not my God-given talent. But I knew that I wanted to do it. And much like you, I kind of realized the only way to do it was to do it on my own. I realized working for a different station, same problems. I knew I would have the same problems because it's all one giant company when you really think about it. You know, you think a different story or station in the market or a different state or a different media company, it's all one giant entity as far as I'm concerned. So I think the only way to do it is to do it on your own. So if somebody's watching and is afraid to make that jump, I hope they reach out to one of us. Obviously, today's my first day. So who knows what lessons I'm going to learn or, you know, what's going to come from me. But I knew that I still wanted to try to find a way to do this. And I might not have the resources that I have, but there is a sense of knowing that, like, what I put my name on, I'm really proud of.
That's wonderful. So now that you're going independent, I just want to tell the viewers, like, reach out to Allison Royal if you have a story idea, because I put your Twitter and your Rumble and your Getter in my description. So go follow her, because here's the thing. I get so flooded with story tips that I can't possibly cover everything. But now that there's more and more independent journalists, you guys can reach out to all of us. We are always reading your messages and trying to cover as much as we can. And so message Allison and follow her stuff. Watch her interview with me. She interviewed me about my story, and then before it ended, I was like, "Okay, Allison, you got to tell your whole story." So then she tells hers. It's a great thing. So before you go, Allison, thank you so much for joining me live. I'm actually going to play one more clip from that interview between you and me, because this point that I made about the hypocrisy of corporate news at this point, I just want you guys to hear this. You know, all Joe Rogan's doing is tackling, okay, oh, this just got censored, this topic, this person, they just got censored. Well, let's bring them on and see why they got censored. So he shines a light where darkness was left. And it's really ironic that one of the primary journalism slogans is shine light and the people will find their way. One of the big news corporations, that's literally still their slogan to this day on the company website and things. And it's just so hypocritical, because in the 21st century and in 2021, we sure saw a lot of the media monopoly actually creating dark blotches in the information sphere. The media corporations are now leaving darkness for Joe Rogan to shine light on. Joe Rogan of all people, but not just Joe. It's me and countless other independent journalists who have just sprouted up and begun to flourish in this market. We are now we're targeting those dark areas, and we are doing what the old news corporations said they did, of shining light so that the people can find their way. It's the idea of saying, okay, this got censored out by whoever. The olden days, it used to be, you know, the corrupt government that censored it out. Well, now it's a media monopoly that's censoring out information, creating a splotch of darkness. And
the independent journalists now are going in, shining light specifically on the dark area. We already know what we know in the light area, but let's highlight this darkness, not because we agree with it. We don't even know whether to agree with it yet. It's just a dark area, and we're going to go in and explore, shine light there so that now we can see the whole map of what's going on and figure out what we want to do with it. That's what we mean by shine light, and people will find their way. So that's what we're doing. We're saying, let's get to the bottom of what's really what this is all about. And we can figure out whether we like this treatment for COVID or that treatment for COVID better, or whether we want the jab, or maybe we don't want the jab, if we just show the whole picture of what the jab does.
There you go. Shine light and the people will find their way. That's an old journalism slogan that is not followed at all anymore.
No.
But we're picking that up now.
And
And
I hope so.
You know, and so viewers reach out to me, and, or, you know, some haters reach out and say, Ivory, I think you're biased because you're only covering these topics, not those topics. It's true. I'm not spending my time on the stuff that the corporate news is shoving down your throat right now, because they're shoving it down your throat while blacking out other things. So I am only dedicating my time to what's been darkened out in the censored area. And if you think that makes me biased, I guess you can think whatever you want. I'm just devoting a lot of my attention to try and fill in the blanks in the censored area right now. And Allison, what's your game plan now that you're independent?
I mean, I want to keep telling stories. I'm hopefully want to raise a little bit of money, because I was in an MMJ meeting, like I shot and edited and wrote all my own stuff. I'm people who actually really likes filming my own stuff. But I'm learning now, and I'm sure you've learned this too, that starting your own thing actually takes a decent amount of money. Like cameras cost money, and microphones, and all this other equipment that I really want. So that's the next step. I want to get on the road and start shooting more enterprise stories, more boots on the ground stuff, because I think that's what I'm passionate about. And, you know, I want to connect with more people like you. I've filmed interviews for this new thing that I'm starting on Rumble, and you weren't the first, but after we talked, I knew the first one I wanted to publish, because there was something so pure and sincere about you, and you made me feel a lot less alone when I reached out to you over the summer. A lot of people don't realize that the news business is about this big and everyone knows everybody. It's a really small web, but I felt so much less alone after talking to you, and it gave me hope. And I just hope that other people have that same sentiment, because I mean, you really were a game changer for me. It feels really good to know that there are other people out there like this. And since I have had this, I mean, look at you. There's a ton of journalists who come and call you and say, hey, this is happening to me too. So you've made a huge difference, whether you're aware of it or not.
Wow. Well, I'm really glad that you found me somehow, because we didn't know each other, and someone told you about me and told you that you're not the only one going through this.
No.
You know, the mind games that these bosses play, they're really slick with their words. They'll never just be blatant with you and say, yeah, we're controlling a deceptive narrative. That, sorry, you're ordered to do a deceptive narrative. No, it's this freaking mind.
It's become a 24/7 commercial for Pfizer. Like, that's just all it is.
Seriously. It's really crazy. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I didn't want to keep this too long, but guys, go follow Allison Royal. Links in my description, on my her Twitter, her new Getter page, her new Rumble.
Very new.
Yeah. Are you on Instagram too?
I don't have a professional one, actually. I just have one for friends and family, but maybe it's time to graduate to a professional one.
I just mix it all up. Friends,
everyone
family,
everyone gets a little taste of every different facet of your life.
Yeah, just keep it real. Well, all the best to you, Allison. And look, to any other corporate news people feeling alone out there, reach out to me or Allison. You're not alone. You're not alone.
Also, if you work in corporate news and you think, oh, it'll get better, like they're not going to mandate boosters, like I'm in the clear, like, no, they're going to. It's a matter of when, not if. Like, if that, or things are going to get better, like this pandemic will end and things will get better. No, like this is never going to end. Like it ends when you decide it ends.
Yeah. So just bottom line, no matter what situation is, never let someone push you into anything that contradicts your conscience. Period. So summer of 2020, when they were trying, they contradicted my conscience, and I said, nope, not doing it. So no matter in what area it is, just whether it's medical stuff they're trying to make you do, or news narrative stuff that's not true, so, or anything that contradicts your conscience, guys, just stay true to you and your own heart always. All right, with that being said, have a wonderful evening, Allison, and the rest of the world, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.